I still remember that Tuesday morning like it was yesterday. It was raining hard, and I had just finished a long night shift at the local diner. My feet were aching, my uniform was soaked, and all I wanted was to go home, take a hot shower, and rest. But when I pulled into the driveway, I froze. Something was wrong. The lights were off, the porch was empty except for a few garbage bags. I walked closer, heart pounding. That's when I saw the locks had been changed. My key no longer worked. I knocked on the door, confused, scared, no answer. I called my husband, David. My hands were shaking as I held the phone. When he answered, his voice was cold, empty. "It's over, Sarah," he said. "I've moved on. Don't come back." I stood there in the rain, still wearing my waitress apron, staring at the house we had built together, the one I thought was ours. But the truth hit me like a punch. It wasn't ours, it was his. I had paid the down payment using money my grandfather left me when he passed away, but David's name was on the mortgage. He said it was because of his better credit score, and I believed him. I trusted him. I thought we were building a life together. I never thought he'd throw me out like this. Then my phone buzzed again, a bank alert. Our joint account, empty. I checked my personal account, also empty. All our savings, everything I had worked for, was gone. I couldn't think, I couldn't breathe. With nowhere else to go, I drove to David's mother's house. I thought maybe she would explain. Maybe it was all a big misunderstanding. It wasn't. Patricia opened the door and looked me up and down like I was a stray dog. She wore pearls, lipstick, and a smug look that made me feel small. Behind her, David's sister Amanda stood with a smirk on her face. "I suppose you're here to beg for money now that David's finally come to his senses," Patricia said coldly. "Patricia, please," I said, my voice shaking. "I don't understand. He changed the locks. The accounts are empty. I have nothing." She just laughed, not kindly, but in a cruel, mocking way. "Did you really think David would stay with a waitress forever? He's moving up. He needs someone who matches his ambition." Amanda chimed in. "Honestly, you should be grateful you lasted this long. Most gold diggers would have been caught years ago." "Gold digger?" I whispered. "I paid for the house. I supported him while he did his MBA. With your dead grandfather's money," Amanda said, "which you never let him forget." I felt like I was drowning in the rain. Everything I'd done for David, all the long hours, the sacrifices, the love, meant nothing to them. "Where is he?" I asked. "On his honeymoon," Patricia said, smiling, "with Jessica. You remember her? His new assistant. They'd been seeing each other for months." Jessica, I remembered her well. Young, beautiful, always hanging around David at work. I thought she was just eager. Turns out, she was something else entirely. "You all knew," I said slowly, looking between them. "Of course we knew," Amanda said. "We helped him plan it. Jessica's father is on the board of David's company. She's a much better fit than you." Then Patricia stepped forward and said, "And don't even think about going to court. You signed a prenup. You get nothing." And with that, she slammed the door in my face. That night, I slept in my car in the Walmart parking lot. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I was too numb. The next morning, I tried to check into a cheap motel, only to find my credit cards didn't work anymore. Then my phone died, cut off. It had been on David's plan. Within 2 days, I had nothing left but an old car, some garbage bags full of clothes, and a little over $200 in cash. I didn't know where to go, but I remembered the local women's shelter. I had volunteered there years ago. I never thought I'd be walking through its doors needing help myself. The shelter director, Grace, still remembered me. She gave me a small room and brought me a warm cup of tea. "You're in shock, Sarah," she said gently, "but you're stronger than you know, and when you're ready, we'll help you fight back." I didn't believe her. I felt powerless. David had taken everything and left me with nothing but shame. But Grace was right about one thing. I was in shock. I didn't even realize the most important piece of the puzzle until 3 days later. I was helping in the shelter kitchen, cooking breakfast for the other women. It was the least I could do. I couldn't pay, but I could work. Then I heard some excited chatter from the front. "The CEO of Montgomery Industries is here." "Alexander Montgomery? What's he doing here?" "I heard he's doing surprise visits to local charities." I nearly dropped the pot I was holding. Montgomery Industries, that was David's company. He'd worked there for years, always whining that he was overlooked. I had never met anyone from his work, he said I wouldn't fit in. But I knew of Alexander Montgomery. He was rich, powerful, and famous for being tough on corruption. I thought about hiding, but then Grace appeared. "Sarah," she said, "Mr. Montgomery wants to meet our residents and hear their stories. Would you join us?" I looked down at my shelter clothes, touched my messy hair. I'm not ready. "You are," she said, "you belong here, and your voice matters." So I sat in a circle with the other women, and when Alexander Montgomery walked in, he didn't seem like some cold CEO. He looked calm, kind even, just a man who wanted to understand. I didn't know it then, but that meeting would change everything. Because finally, someone was going to listen to my story. And for the first time in weeks, I started to feel something again. Hope. Everything happened so fast after that day at the shelter. Alexander kept his promise. Within an hour, a team of lawyers from Montgomery Industries arrived. They sat with me, listened carefully to everything I said, and started collecting every piece of evidence I had: emails, account statements, even the original draft of the proposal David had stolen from me. By the next morning, everything had changed. David's fraud had been exposed. The company found out he had stolen someone else's work, lied about his role, and manipulated people to get ahead. He was fired immediately, and not quietly. It was all over the news. His corporate accounts were frozen, the fancy new title he'd bragged about, gone. And as for Jessica, his new wife, her father, the powerful board member, was furious. Once he realized how David had used both his daughter and his company to climb the ladder, he ended the marriage, just like that, annulled. I wasn't there when it all happened, but I found out anyway. Amanda, David's sister, called me a few days later. She sounded shaky, desperate even. Now that I was working closely with Alexander and had a seat at the company table, she suddenly wanted to be friendly again. She told me everything, probably hoping I'd help fix things. David and Jessica had come back early from their honeymoon. They arrived at the Montgomery Industries building expecting to continue their new life of power and luxury. Instead, their key cards didn't work. Security guards were waiting at the front door. David had screamed in the lobby, in front of everyone, "Do you know who my new father-in-law is?" He yelled at Alexander. Alexander didn't even flinch. He corrected him calmly. "The marriage has been annulled, and Mr. Williams sends his regards, along with a suggestion that you find a new industry, far, far away from this one." And then David saw me. I was standing beside Alexander in a tailored navy blue suit, a gift from the company's stylist. My hair was clean, my shoulders back, my head held high. I looked nothing like the soaked and broken woman he threw away on a rainy Tuesday morning. "Sarah," he stuttered, What are you doing here?" I looked him straight in the eye. "Taking back what's mine," I said. I didn't shout, I didn't cry, I didn't need to. Everything he thought he'd destroyed was already being rebuilt, stronger, smarter, brighter. The proposal you stole, it's going live. The career you tried to bury, it's growing faster than ever. The woman you left behind, she's standing next to your former boss, because she earned her place. Patricia and Amanda kept trying to contact me after that. Voicemails, emails, even a letter. Suddenly, they were full of sweet words about family and forgiveness. But I had a new family now. I had the amazing team at Montgomery Industries, people who saw me for who I really was, people who valued my ideas, welcomed my voice, and gave me the space to dream big. We didn't just stop at the proposal I had written, we built something even bigger. The women's shelter that took me in, it became our first community resource center. Grace, the shelter director, joined the project as our lead program manager. Within a year, we had opened 10 more centers just like it, each one helping women and families rebuild their lives. As for David, last I heard, he was working as a junior analyst at a small company, hundreds of miles away. Jessica moved on, married some wealthy developer. And Patricia, well, she still complains about how her new daughter-in-law married beneath the family name. But me? That's a whole different story. What started as late nights at the office with Alexander soon turned into something more. At first, we were just working, long hours, deep conversations, shared goals. But slowly, things changed. Dinners became more personal, meetings turned into moments. One night, as the sun set through the tall windows of his office, Alexander looked at me and said, "I'm not him, Sarah, I'll never try to dim your light." "I know," I replied softly. Because I did know, I had learned what real love looked like. It wasn't someone who tried to control you or take from you. It was someone who stood beside you and wanted you to fly. 2 years after the day my world fell apart, I stood in the grand ballroom at Montgomery Industries. It was the opening ceremony of our 15th community center. The place was full, employees, community leaders, friends from the shelter. And now, the announcer said, "Please welcome our Community Impact Director and newest board member, Mrs. Sarah Montgomery." As I walked onto the stage, the lights caught the ring on my finger, a simple gold band, nothing fancy. Alexander knew I didn't care for diamonds or sparkle. What mattered was the life we were building together. I glanced into the crowd and saw her, Patricia. She had managed to get an invitation through one of her old business contacts. Maybe she thought she could impress me, maybe she thought I'd forgotten. But I hadn't, I just no longer cared. I smiled at her, then turned to the microphone. 5 years ago, I began. I wrote a proposal about the power of support, about what happens when we believe in people, especially those the world has forgotten. Today, we're opening more than just a building, we're opening the door to hope. I paused and rested my hand on my belly, just a small bump for now, our little secret. Alexander and I hadn't told many people yet, but that baby, growing inside me, was the start of the next chapter. That night, as Alexander and I drove home to our cozy little house with the garden I loved, he asked me, "Any regrets?" I looked out at the road ahead, at the life we were building, at the peace I finally felt. "Just one," I said, smiling. "I wish I'd checked the company's online submission portal years ago." He laughed softly. "Everything happened exactly when it was supposed to. And you know what? He was right. Because sometimes, life's worst moments are just the beginning. Sometimes, losing everything is how you make space for everything you truly deserve. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's healing, it's growing, it's living your truth so fully, so boldly, that the people who once tried to break you can't even touch the life you've built. They become a footnote. You become the story. And in that story, you rise, not because someone saved you, but because you saved yourself. Strong, whole, unstoppable. Finally, me,